plenty of stories about people encountering ghosts in hotels. But it wasn't until I experienced it myself that I truly understood how terrifying it could be. Last year, my girlfriend and I went on vacation to a small coastal town in Italy. We booked a 3-star hotel facing the sea. At first, everything seemed normal, quiet, even comforting. But when night came, I realized this wasn't the kind of place travelers should stay for too long. Our room was number 407 on the 4th floor. Inside was a double bed with white sheets, dark green curtains, and a small balcony overlooking the dark sea. The air carried the faint scent of industrial laundry mixed with the smell of old wood. The first day passed without incident. But on that very first night, around 2 a.m., I woke up with the distinct sensation of the blanket being pulled down toward the foot of the bed. I thought maybe my girlfriend had shifted in her sleep, but when I looked, she was lying still, hands resting on her chest. I pulled the blanket back up and tried to calm myself. Half an hour later, the blanket slid down again, this time more clearly. I switched on the light. No one was there. Only the faint sound of waves in the distance and the dull glow of the yellow lamp. The next morning, I kept it to myself. But that night, my girlfriend whispered, "I felt like someone was pulling the blanket off me last night. Did you notice?" I told her no, not wanting to scare her. On the second night, I set up my phone to record. Around 3 a.m., the video showed the blanket slowly sliding down, while both of us remained perfectly still. My stomach dropped as I stopped the recording. The next morning, I asked the front desk casually, "Has room 407 ever had anything unusual happen?" The woman behind the counter froze for a brief second, then lowered her eyes to her ledger and said evenly, "No, of course not. You must just be tired." She smiled, but it felt forced. On the third night, we left a lamp on, but around 3 a.m., the blanket was yanked hard, sliding all the way down to our knees. I heard the unmistakable rustle of fabric, like real fingers gripping it. We both shot up, clutching the blanket tight, neither of us daring to step onto the cold floor. The following morning, my girlfriend begged we should leave, but I hesitated. We had already paid, and I told myself it was all in our heads, so we stayed another night. The fourth night was the breaking point. Close to 3 a.m., I rolled over and saw my girlfriend sitting upright, eyes wide, staring toward the bathroom door. Her voice shook as she whispered, "Do you see that? Right there, in the doorway." I turned my head, and at that exact moment, a tall, thin, shadowy figure, blurred like steam, stood in the bathroom entrance. It didn't come closer. It just lingered, tilting its head slightly as if watching us. I panicked and switched on the ceiling light. The room was empty, but a damp, musty odor seeped out from the bathroom, completely different from the clean, dry smell it had during the day. My girlfriend cried. I couldn't calm her. We stayed awake until dawn. And hi. That morning, we packed our bags, cut the trip short, and left, forfeiting the 2 remaining nights. The receptionist gave us a strained smile as we handed over the key, not asking a single question. But her eyes flicked quickly to the card for room 407. Her expression carrying something that looked very much like unease. Even now, I can still remember the icy feeling of the blanket being pulled off me, and that shadow standing at the bathroom door. But what unsettles me most wasn't the figure itself. It was the look in the receptionist's eyes, as if we were just the next guests forced to leave before our stay was over. I had heard plenty of stories about people riding at night through mountain passes and seeing something that wasn't really there, but it wasn't until I lived through it myself that I truly understood what it meant to feel your spine go cold. Last summer, 4 close friends and I decided to take our motorcycles across the mountains in southern Austria. At night, the pass was almost empty. The only things we could hear were the deep growl of our engines and the sharp wind rushing through the dark. The air carried the leftover scent of hot asphalt from the day, mixed with gasoline and the bite of cold mountain air. I rode in front, on my black naked bike. Behind me were Jonas, Eric, and the other 2. Our headlights cut through the uneven road, the cliffs on both sides rising like walls of shadow. Around 11 p.m., somewhere along a long stretch of road, I noticed a motorcycle ahead of us. Its tail light glowed a faint red, flickering like a candle in the dark. It wasn't moving fast, but no matter how much I opened the throttle, the distance never changed, not closer, not further. I leaned forward, gripping the bars tighter. The engine screamed. The speedometer crept past 120. The wind slapped against my face, burning my eyes. Yet that red light hovered in the exact same spot. Minutes passed. My palms were slick with sweat, despite the freezing air. I finally glanced back. Jonas was right behind me, his face pale under the helmet. He waved frantically, shouting over the roar of the wind, "Stop! Slow the hell down!" I slammed the brakes. The tires screeched. The smell of burning rubber filled the night. We pulled off to the side of the road. The silence of insects and the low hum of cooling engines surrounded us. Jonas barked, "What the hell is wrong with you? You were riding like something was chasing you." Breathing hard, I pointed straight down the road. The bike, the motorcycle in front of me. Didn't you guys see it? All 4 of them just stared. Eric frowned. "What bike?" "You've been leading this whole time. There's no one else out here." A chill shot through my chest. I tried to explain, the faint red tail light that wouldn't let me close in. None of them believed me. They said it must have been my eyes playing tricks on me from staring too long into the dark. We stayed put for a while, then rode on. The strange bike never appeared again. It was gone, like it had never existed. 2 days later, in a small cafe at the base of the mountains, Jonas froze while scrolling through his phone. He silently handed it to me. It was an old local news article. A 23-year-old man was killed in a motorcycle accident on the Hotchom Pass around midnight. Cause: loss of control at high speed, collision with the rock wall. The photo attached showed the wreckage, lying on the very same curve where we had stopped that night. I met Jonas's eyes. Neither of us said a word, but I knew the truth. That red tail light I saw wasn't an illusion. Even now, whenever I ride alone at night, I sometimes remember that moment, and I can't help but wonder, if I had been by myself on that mountain road instead of with my friends, what would have happened to me? That thought has never left me. It lingers, gnawing at me every time I get on my bike. And to this day, I've never once ridden alone through a mountain pass at night again. There are places that make your skin crawl. For me, it was the garden behind my neighbor's house. By day it looked ordinary, just weeds, an old apple tree leaning. Still, silent. But at night, the whole place seemed darker than the sky itself. At first, I thought it was just my imagination, until I started hearing sounds that shouldn't exist. I had rented a small house on the edge of a quiet town in southern Germany. Behind it was that abandoned garden, grass waist high, damp air. Even in daylight, it looked wrong. From the very first evenings, I felt uneasy passing by the fence. The garden always seemed to fall into shadow before the rest of the world. The first night, I heard knocking on my back window. Tock, tock. I opened it, nothing. Only the smell of wet grass and the cold wind slipping in. The second night, it came again. 3 knocks, steady, not loud, but sharp enough to twist something in my chest. A week later, worse came. Footsteps, crushing through grass, slow, deliberate, moving straight toward my wall. I froze in bed, heart pounding. The steps circled, again and again, for 10 endless minutes, then silence. The next morning, I asked the landlord about the garden. He just stared and changed the subject. That silence chilled me more than any answer could have. One stormy night, the knocking returned, but this time, a moan followed. Weak, broken, like someone whispering for help through the dark. I couldn't move. I sat there trembling, eyes wide, until the first light of dawn. Days later, in a cafe, I overheard 2 locals. "Do you remember that boy? Last year? He fell in that garden." "Yeah, early 20s. Slipped, cracked his head on a stone. Dead instantly. No one goes there anymore." The words froze my blood. My coffee turned cold in my hand. And in my mind, every knock, every step, every moan came rushing back. I don't live there now, but sometimes I still drive past that street. The garden remains, dark, silent, watching. And I wonder, were those knocks just echoes? Or was it a young soul, still trapped there? Even now I cannot sleep in a room with a window facing a garden at night. One sound on the glass, and the memory returns, clear as the night it first happened. I had always heard people say that when you lose someone you love, sometimes you can still feel them nearby, in a dream, in a sound, in the faint trace of a familiar scent. I used to think that was just a way of comforting ourselves. But one night, I learned what it truly means to feel both fear and longing when you come close to something that no longer belongs to this world. After my mother passed away, the old house on the outskirts of town was left to me. For months, I didn't dare return. But one autumn day, when the air turned sharp and the leaves began to fall, I decided to go back, to clean up, and perhaps to say goodbye one last time. The house was small, the paint peeling, the roof covered in moss. When I pushed the wooden door open, it groaned on its hinges, and the smell of damp and dust rushed out to greet me. But buried in that stale air was something achingly familiar, the faint scent of herbal tea, the very same my mother used to brew every afternoon. I froze in the doorway, my chest tightening with a sudden, heavy ache. That night, I chose to sleep there. The room I stayed in had once been hers. On the table, a family photo sat in its frame, dulled with dust. I reached out, but pulled my hand back quickly, afraid that touching it might awaken something I wasn't ready for. Around midnight, I woke to a faint clatter from the kitchen, the sound of dishes softly shifting. I sat bolt upright, cold sweat breaking down my back. I told myself, probably just mice. But then it came, a smell filling the air, herbal tea, hot, rich, unmistakable, the exact scent that always accompanied her voice when she'd call out. Come here, sit with me. Let's drink some tea. My throat tightened. I stepped into the kitchen. The light was off, but on the old wooden table sat a cup, faint wisps of steam curling upward. My hands trembled as I reached out. The porcelain was cold, empty. And then, from behind me, a whisper. So soft, so fragile. My child. I spun around. The kitchen was dark, silent, only the steady ticking of the clock. The next morning, I called my aunt and told her what had happened. She was quiet for a long time, and then she said only one thing. Maybe your mother still worries. She loved you very much. That evening, I sat in the living room, clutching the family photo in my hands. And when the wind slipped through the crack of the window, I could hear it again. Soft footsteps circling the room, slow, gentle, just like hers. I don't know if it was truly her, or only memories haunting me, but I know this. Love never really disappears. It lingers as a whisper in the dark, as a scent in the air, as the faintest sound passing by. It stays. Always. Perhaps, that night, I only missed her too much. And perhaps she knew that if she came again, I would drown in fear more than comfort. Because from that night until now, I've never heard the whisper again. Never smelled the tea. Even so, I can't deny it. Deep inside me, beyond the fear, there's still a quiet longing. A hope, however faint, that just once more I could hear her call to me from that old kitchen. And sometimes, the greatest fear isn't meeting a ghost. It's realizing that the thing you yearn for most will never come back.